Welcome back everyone. Now, I believe that we are under attack on all four fronts from all sides. In recent times, even criticising illegal entry into this country has become a pretty dangerous conversation, right? People have been sent to jail for just daring to voice an opinion on things that are quite clearly and very evidently taking place right in front of our very eyes. And it feels, at least, that our own police services, our government, courts and civil servants, the very people that are supposed to be there to serve and protect us, it feels like they've turned their backs on us, seemingly willing to protect and even further the cause of those that want to destroy us and our way of life, even willing to support the death of free speech. And that's just the first front that we're having to deal with. Being targeted and attacked by our own is a very bitter pill to swallow, and it's very hard to understand and to come to terms with. The second front comes in the shape of a section of our society who are currently very busy flexing their muscles as hard as they can, wherever they can and whenever they can. And since October the 7th, 2023, there's no doubt that we've had literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people on our streets basically supporting terrorists. They've been allowed to vent their hate-filled spleens, cover their faces, calling for the death and destruction of the only Jewish nation on earth. And let's be honest, let's be clear here, the Jews will be just the start of their ethnic cleansing given the opportunity. These hate-filled cries, their calls for jihad and intifada, have not only been ignored, but in many ways they've been supported and aided by the state, who seem to have taken a side in the name of diversity, inclusion, and they think in the hope of a more peaceful life. But they're wrong. This isn't just about Israel anymore. This is an attempt to succeed where the Nazis failed. Oh yes, they want Europe. So the first front that I mentioned is naively backing up and seemingly supporting the second. The British people are under attack both from the front and the rear. But I'm afraid it gets even worse. On one side, we have our so-called education system that's been hijacked and infiltrated by dangerous, useful idiots on the hard left, the communists, brainwashing our kids and our students from the moment they get their grubby, anti-British hands on them. And if you don't believe me, if you think I'm lying, just recently, of those asked, only 5%, yes, 5% of students at the Oxford Union said that they would have reported the Hamas attack on Israel to the authorities if they'd had advanced knowledge of it. Just think about that for a moment. Let that sink in. Only 5% of those asked would have prevented the death and torture of innocent people, including women and children. What sort of people have we been breeding? And what on earth has happened to their education? How have we got to this point? And then on the other side, we're being attacked by our own treacherous, cowardly media. So-called journalists, really nothing more than paid mouthpieces right across the nation, across all networks, who have chosen to ignore the dangers to their own families, their own futures, their own children, their own country, in return for a wage packet. Willing to spread and perpetuate words like Islamophobia, the biggest myth, the biggest con trick of the 21st century. Because a phobia is an irrational fear, it says that in the dictionary. But there's absolutely nothing irrational about being concerned over buses being blown up, innocent people being killed on the streets, bombs exploding at pop concerts and lone wolf attacks right across Europe on a fairly regular basis. That's not a phobia. That's a stark reality. And if I'm lying, then why do we now have to have barriers everywhere? And why do we need armed police officers at places like Christmas markets? There's nothing irrational and there's no phobia involved over being concerned about a cult that allows first cousins to marry and have children who will physically and mentally suffer for the rest of their entire lives. There's no phobia involved in opposing 15-year-old girls, 15-year-old children being forced to marry their middle-aged perverted uncles. . 」 . And more than anything, I'll tell you this now, there's nothing irrational or phobic about strongly opposing the belief that a young girl, a child as young as 9, are somehow ready for a physical adult relationship. And it's definitely not a phobia to oppose any attempt to shut down the criticism of the things that I've just mentioned. How utterly insane is the mere thought or suggestion, how did we even get there? No, what it really means is shut up, we're now in charge, and we will do whatever we want. And if you moan, we're going to try and get you sent to prison. We're going to try and get you arrested. And of course, if that fails, then we'll simply threaten you to the point where you have to go into hiding for the rest of your life. I refer to a Batley school teacher as proof. Yes, we are under attack from all sides, and this isn't going away anytime soon. And the time, if you hadn't realised it, has now come for British people across the nation to stand up together and say that enough is enough. We are tolerant people, we are peace-loving people, we are welcoming people, and we're good people. We are the best in the world. But we've now gone way past the point where the straw broke the camel's back, and we've gone past the point of no return. And for me, every single one of you watching this video right now simply must do at least, but preferably, both of these things. Firstly, you simply must register to vote so that when the opportunity arrives, we can rid our nation of those that have betrayed us from their positions of power within Parliament. Secondly, please sign the pledge, the people's movement that is growing rapidly and by the day. Please sign it and please share it. Please do both of those things for all of our sakes, and more importantly, do it for our children.